Ready? Ready.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lerner?
Here.
Ms. Dolan?
Here.
Mrs. Jeffrey?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Here.
Mrs. McKnight?
Here.
Mr. Gardner?
Here.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a public meeting, Borough Council, Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231. That annual notice of revision was made in conformance with Section 13 of the Act. Before we go on, I just want to recognize that it's Women's Month, and June, what was it, March 8th was International Women's Month.
Women's Day.
Women's Day. And now we have a lot of women, especially in leadership, in the borough here. And as you can see, three here, and up here, and then Bernadette, and we go on, and you know, women do us very proud in this town, and have been a great contribution to this country and world. Sometimes I think a little female common sense has straightened a lot of things out in this world.
For sure.
So,
Sometimes.
so at that rate, I don't know, how many full-time women we have?
I believe that's 36.
36?
Yes.
Okay.
Had that number in the holster.
I did.
How did you know that?
I looked into it. I did a little research. I don't know if that counts our 2 women police officers as well.
Nice.
But it
Oh,
does.
it does, yeah.
36.
Okay, I need approval of minutes for February 24th, please.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
No, so be it. Okay, we have correspondence. City of Summit introducing zoning ordinances. Chime Township, same thing. City of Summit Planning Board, adoption of the 4th round housing element. Board of Adjustment for Crescent Drive, Berkeley Heights zoning ordinance. You can see that the state's pushing all this stuff, and we're all bound by it, and that's it. Any comments? Seeing
No
none,
comments.
let's go to administration. Nadine?
Thank you, Mayor. So we'll start with Resolution 2026-094 is a resolution authorizing an agreement between the Borough of New Providence and the County of Union regarding road closures and overhead banners on county roads for community events. So whenever we do an event that is on a county road or impacts a county road, we have to pass these resolutions. It'll then go to the county commissioners meeting, where hopefully it will be passed so we can proceed. The events this year is the Memorial Day Parade, the 3rd of July firework event, and the night after Thanksgiving, the winter holiday walk. The overhead banner is for our mental health advocacy and education committees, celebrating of Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are hoping to have that up throughout the month of May. That'll be hung down by the pool. So that's that resolution. Then Resolution 2026-095 is a resolution authorizing the Borough of New Providence to apply to the NJ Department of Community Affairs Management Enhancement Review Program Grant. Before changing administrations, then Governor Murphy passed $1.5 million appropriation in the FY 2026 state budget for management enhancement reviews by the DCA, which is the Department of Consumer Affairs. Municipal-based government units may be awarded a maximum grant of $100,000 to contract with management enhancement review consultants to conduct local government unit efficiency reviews and to make recommendations to streamline operations and to reduce costs. So as you know, we always try our hardest to be very fiscally conservative and tight with our budget. So it makes sense to have a set of outside eyes help us scrub things down to make sure we're getting every ounce of those pennies out in our operations. So we'll be putting in for that grant, and hopefully we'll get that, and we can do a nice study.
Okay, might as well keep going with affordable housing.
Well, are we going to bring Susan up at this point?
You can.
Okay, so the next set of items that we're going to be talking about is regarding affordable housing this evening. There are 3 resolutions, there are 2 ordinances, and this is the next step in the process that we're going through to get our 4th round compliance. So Susan Gruhl is here this evening. She is our borough planner. She has been so kind as to put together a presentation that really overlays how we got here today, what happened before, how we got here, how we get to our number. If you recall, we were given a number by the state of 201 that we were able to fulfill through some very careful planning. So the following presentation, I think this is a great time for Susan to come up. She'll give us a presentation on everything that was discussed, and then I'll go through the resolutions and the ordinances. Okay, so thank you so much, Susan, for joining us. This is a very onerous topic, and it's got many, many layers to it, similar to an onion. So the more you peel, the more there is.
And I don't mean to have my back to the public, but I think you can
And the more you
see,
cry.
we tried to put together a PowerPoint that was relatively simple, but at the same time, you know, didn't make your head explode, but at the same time kind of gave you some of the fundamentals. And I have to say that a lot of you know a lot about affordable housing. Whether you liked it or not, you kind of got caught in having to learn. So particularly Matt and the mayor and Nadine. So I'll try to be concise and more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has. To the
Excuse me, Susan, can you like move the microphone
Oh,
over?
yeah, sure.
That's it.
Does that help?
I would assume so, yeah.
Can you-
Thank you.
Perfect.
You had
Okay.
a thumbs up in the back.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll start with what is affordable housing? And affordable housing deals with a range of household incomes. It's really broken down. Let me just say one thing. New Jersey, as we all know, is very regulatory and loves regulations. And the more regulations, the better, according to the state. So affordable housing is regulated to death in New Jersey. So there are 3 income classifications: moderate, low, and very low. And the next slide, I'll get into what is that, how does that translate? But it's not public housing. It's not Section 8 housing. It is oftentimes housing that is provided for teachers, police, tradesmen, and working families. And so, you know, both in the public and private sector. So there have been studies to show who lives in affordable housing. So it is not oftentimes the misperception of who lives in affordable housing.
Thank you for that, because most of the time when I'm talking about affordable housing, people automatically think that housing projects are
Right.
going up.
Right.
And when I have to explain the nuances of like what, you know, inclusionary and affordable housing means, it's really, thank you very much for, you know, clarifying.
Sure, and what I wanted to do was how does that translate so that people can actually understand what that means. There are different housing regions in the state, and because of the different housing regions, there are different incomes. Obviously, in South Jersey, it's a little different than up here. So you're in housing region 2, and I just kind of want to go into what is moderate income. Moderate income affordable housing is 50 to 80% of median income for the region. And that translates to a 4-person household, $103,000 as an income. And that's the top end, but that's still quite good. Low income is 30 to 50% of median income, which is approximately $64,000 for a four-person household. And it's classified by the number of people in the household, so one person, two people, whatever.
So it's not for incomes.
No, no. And very low is below 30% of median, and that's $38,000. So even at the very low income, that's, you know, a nice enough income. So just so that everybody has an understanding, particularly the public, of how that translates. What does that mean? Moderate, low, very low. So that's one. And what does it mean to be in the fourth round housing? What does that mean? This has been going on since 1987. We have been doing this for years, and the courts have been doing this for years. And there was the first round, there was the second round. And those two rounds are now called the prior round, 1987 to 1999. There was a third round that was 1999 to 2025. And then we're now in the fourth round, which is 2025 to 2035. And moving forward, it's supposed to be every 10 years. So this plan that is now, this affordable housing plan, is intended to address the next 10 years, okay? What does that mean in terms of translation? And I know probably people are gonna say, well, how did these numbers come about? And all I can say is, if I try to explain that to you, your head will explode. And it's not worth, I hate to say it, but it's very, very complicated. And I would argue that some of the numbers are absurd, that the projections at the state level that they projected to then take it from the state level down to the county, the regional level, and then down to the municipal level is way over projected, okay? But the point being is the courts have agreed, the legislature agreed to these numbers, and that's what it is, okay? Your prior round number was 135 units. And you received, by the way, the borough has been extremely good in addressing its affordable housing obligation and actually implementing. And you are, in my opinion, one of the models in the state in terms of how you've done it, in terms of actually doing it. And as we go through this, and anyone that looks at your housing plan can see that you've actually implemented. You actually have a lot of affordable housing in your borough, which is very good, in my opinion. So you had 135 units in your prior round. Your obligation in your third round, which was 1999 to 2025, was 316 units. And you had a court-approved plan in both of those rounds, that the court basically said, Borough of New Providence, you've done what you needed to do. You satisfied your obligation. So therefore, you are immune from builder's remedy lawsuits. No builder can come in and say, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And by the way, affordable housing, this goes to the court, is a constitutional obligation in New Jersey. It has been deemed to be that. It has been reinforced in I don't know how many court cases. You know that. Hopefully the public understands that. It's hard, but it is what it is. the fourth round, you received a number of 201 units of affordable housing that was required to be addressed. That's over and above what you had in the prior rounds, okay? And the court ordered that. The court approved it. You said, yes, you understand what the number is, and you will address it. So, you also, there is what's called a rehab obligation or a present need obligation, which is a statistical number where they look at overcrowding and certain census data and say that you have deteriorated units that are occupied by low and moderate income households. And you have to provide for those, you have to come up with a rehabilitation plan, generally, to address those deficient units, to bring them up to code, okay? So that's another piece. You had a 20-unit obligation that was assigned to you in the fourth round. That isn't cumulative. Whatever it was in the fourth round, that's what it was. So the 20 units. So, what was the time frame in terms of what's happened? You had a obligation to adopt a housing element and fair share plan prior to June 30th of 2025. The planning board, that is a planning board document that's part of the master plan. That was adopted on June 19th, 2025. And it basically laid out what your obligation was and how you were going to address it. There also was, as I say, there's a lot of regulatory stuff here. There was an August 31st deadline of last year where any objector could file an objection. And aren't you lucky? You received 5 objections to the plan. Because obviously everybody wants to come to New Providence, okay? So between August and December of last year, there was quite a bit of activity in terms of mediation with Fair Share Housing Center, which is a statewide advocacy group that advocates for affordable housing and basically is involved in all these cases. There were the objections, and then there is what's called the program. It's called the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program. Quite a mouthful. And basically the state legislature in their wisdom set this program up that included retired judges and court mediators, they're called court adjudicators now. They had to change what it was called earlier. And you would sit down and mediate the objections. And then these retired judges would, with the court adjudicator, determine whether they could settle things and ultimately recommend to the judge, the vicinage judge, whether they thought that the municipality had met their obligation, their constitutional obligation. And as I said here, January, 2 months ago, you signed a settlement agreement or mediation agreement with the program. And they recommended to the judge that you receive a certificate of compliance. And that would mean that the court, as you had before, the court would basically say, you have addressed your constitutional obligation and you are not subject to builder's remedy lawsuits. And your plan and your implementing ordinances and such would remain in effect for 10 years. Okay? So that's how it's supposed to work. You're now in the middle of going to the judge. okay? I don't know, nobody knows exactly how this next step is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. The date for, supposedly, the date to have everything done is March 15th. However, you are one of the only municipalities that I'm aware of that has an extension on that, to April 15th. That you have to have all of your operating, implementing ordinances, resolutions in place and adopted by that date. So, how are you going to address the prospective need of 201? There were a number of considerations in this mediation. One is your standard rezoning, which is what's called inclusionary zoning, where 20% of the units, total units, are affordable. And by the way, these are deed restricted units, 30 years, deed restricted. So, and I'll get into the details, but there were two sites that were considered and proposed. One is St. Andrew's Church, and that has been, they've been working on that for a number of years, I would say. The other is Nokia Bell Labs site. I think Nokia Bell Labs, I think everybody recognized that something was going to happen on that site. And I'll get into the details. Extension of controls. There's a provision in the, I'll say, the affordable housing laws that permits municipalities to take credit for extending the controls on deed-restricted units. So there are three, one of which is Elizabeth Barabash Manor, where the controls were going to expire. And so to make sure that they continue to be affordable, there's an opportunity to extend through certain mechanisms to extend those controls. And you can take credit for those. You can also, this is like doing your taxes, okay? You try to maximize whatever you have, okay? And one of them is their bonus credits that you can take. And there were a number of bonus credits that could be taken, 50, okay? There were caps on how many, da-da-da. And then the last was additional measures that were over and above. And those were an expansion of the existing affordable housing overlay to Lantern Hill. That site on Mountain Avenue that had not been developed, that's what that is. So, and then just in terms of other mechanisms, again, you continue the rehabilitation program that you have. You have to address and adopt an affirmative marketing program. These are all what has to be done as part of this. Adopt an updated development fee ordinance. That goes to like the spending plan, adoption of an amended spending plan. You take your money, because you do have a development fee ordinance which permits you to get money from development that doesn't provide for affordable housing, and put a certain percentage into your trust fund, which is set up specifically to target, you can only use that money to promote affordable housing. Okay, so these are the mechanisms. So, St. Andrews, they've been busy trying to provide, they wanted to construct on the portion of their property really behind the church would still remain, an affordable housing project. They wanted to rezone the site, and it would result in 24 affordable housing units while maintaining the existing church. It would be 100% affordable, okay? And they are busy working with professionals, not only for site prep, but also to put a package together financially
so it works. So everybody felt comfortable with that and felt that it was definitely a realistic project. And then the Nokia site, that's a large site. What is proposed to permit up to 500 units, of which 100 would be affordable. Again, 20% would be affordable, of which up to 23 could be age restricted. Okay? Tried to include that in. And then there are non-residential uses that would be permitted in the zone, like hotel and retail uses. So that was another component of rezoning. Whoops, what happened there? Okay. The other was expanding the overlay district to include the Lantern Hill site at Southgate and Mountain, okay? It has an approval on it, has not been constructed, and they were willing to have an overlay on that so that that was an option that permits them to do a residential development at 14 units to the acre that would result in 69 affordable units, if they chose that option. They don't have to. They can do the underlying zoning. Again, what we have here is the ordinance that you are looking to introduce, that affordable housing development fee ordinance. It's collapsed into one. That is really mostly a model that DCA gave. There were some options, and we worked on that, and that's by ordinance. And it aligns pretty much with your current ordinance, affordable housing and development fee ordinance. We used that as well. And the next steps are what actions you need to take as the governing body, as well as the planning board. The planning board has to amend the housing plan. Again, that's a master plan, based upon the mediation that occurred during that process. So that was one. You have to adopt an updated affirmative marketing plan and spending plan. These are resolution. You have the ordinance. As ordinances have to, there has to be a consistency review at the planning board. And then once that occurs, all of it is packaged together and submitted to the court. And then we don't know what happens. Okay? I have to tell you that my understanding is each judge in each vicinage is maybe doing a little different. One may be having one court may have a fairness hearing where there has to be testimony to show that it meets their certain standards. There's a case that requires certain standards. So there may be, but at the same time, I hear that some of the judges aren't doing that. That they say, it's already gone through the process, so why do we have to do that? Don't know. You know, we're in an area now where there hasn't been any history as such. I think, Bill, you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, what you want is you want to receive a compliance certification from the court and immunity from future builder remedy lawsuits. That's your ultimate goal. So for 10 years, you're protected. You move on what you have. You implement what you have. And there you are. You can worry about other things. You can deal with all the other things you have in the borough, okay? And you have plenty of other things to worry about,
Oh, yeah.
right?
So I mentioned too, we get to control where it goes.
And you're absolutely correct.
And
You-
we're also able to help calculate the density where we
Yes.
want it. Right,
Yes,
so those are two really big things that like kind of just helps, at the end of the day, right?
I think you raise a really, really good point, and so for purposes of the ordinances, the draft ordinances that would rezone both Nokia and also St. Andrews, there are definite standards in there, as you would have in your zoning ordinance for other zones, in terms of height, setback, buffer, those types of things. It's exactly what you're talking about. You're in control of that. And as long as they're not what's called cost generative, that's a term of art, and also that they're not unrealistic or unreasonable, then you're in control. Good point.
Hey, when we had our last planning board meeting and we went, with the Toll Brothers, we went through a ton of things that we have in the ordinances that we weren't aware of. Like age restricted, I always thought it was 62. But the federal law says 55 or 62, and they took advantage of this 55. So we have to change the ordinance to 62 to what it was. The whole idea of the age restricted was to keep the kids out of the schools, where 60% of your tax bill goes. We don't want to overcrowd the schools. That's why we were so adamant, well, I was anyway, about the 62. But there were other things like road widths, a lot of different things, and I know you incorporated those ideas into the ordinances. So thank you for that.
Yeah, to the extent we could, Mayor, as we talked about, we did. For example, we clarified the definition of age restricted. We clarified that if it's going to be townhouses, you had to have a driveway, an 18-foot driveway. We had other types of those standards that came up during that toll application, which was quite enlightening on one level. And so we took advantage of that, and certainly the planning board was very good with identifying those. And, one of the things that I would say, some towns don't like it, but one of the provisions in the new ordinance is, it is very clear in the model ordinance, is that affordable must be integrated into the development. So even if it's 20%, those units have to be integrated into the development. And that was a sticking point for quite a while with Toll.
Yeah,
They
the original Toll Brothers plan,
did not.
it was completely segregated.
Did not. And the planning board was very adamant and very good, and I have to acknowledge, they were really good. They kept on that, and ultimately Toll did
Right thing.
integrate. But that's something that really is very important, and some towns don't care. They really don't. This planning board was really adamant about that.
They did a great job.
And you shouldn't be able to distinguish the difference between a market rate versus an affordable unit.
No, no. And so there are a lot of provisions in this new ordinance that may be very overly regulatory, but I think part of it is because they've seen what's happened, and they want to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Well, you learn by doing.
Exactly, exactly. So, so are there parts of that of the development ordinance, that affordable housing ordinance, that maybe is overkill? Yeah, probably. But, there are a lot of good pieces to it as well. So, That is one of the ordinances. The other are the rezoning ordinances for both St. Andrews and Nokia. The remaining of these are resolutions.
Do we anticipate there's going to be a fifth round, maybe a sixth round? Is there an end in sight?
No, no.
I mean, we only have a finite amount of
I-
land to build on.
Absolutely.
before we start
Absolutely.
building in the sky.
This round, they seem to be much more focused on redevelopment, which they should. New Jersey is built out. So there were certain incentives built into bonuses. For example, if you used an existing site, you could, and redevelop an existing site. So, for example, you got bonuses for Nokia, because that was an existing site that was developed. So there are certain incentives that were built in to this round. Who knows what's gonna happen moving forward after 10 years?
Can I talk real quick about, like Montvale? I don't know if you're prepared, but Montvale kind of led the charge for a bunch of towns to
Yes.
say, we're fighting this, right?
Yes.
We're not gonna do it.
Yes,
They lost.
they lost. They lost at the federal, at the Supreme Court
Well,
level.
the Supreme Court said
Supreme
no.
Court said, no way, we're not hearing this.
You know, it's funny because, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, everybody said, why don't you fight them, why don't you? It's court mandated. You have no options. And you saw it went through Milburn and they fought, they appealed, they lost, they appealed again, they lost, they appealed again, they lost. Then this group of 30 towns and they were badgering me. Well, why don't you join? Why don't you join? Because it's a waste of money. I'm not spending money on something that's going nowhere. And it's not fair to the residents here. You know, you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And
Heard that somewhere.
yeah, but the same opinions come down. You have to do it. And then if it goes to court and you lose the appeal, you're losing all your rights. They're gonna put in whatever they want.
Wherever they
And
want.
this way, at least we have
Some control.
some sort of control
Yep.
of architectural standards,
Yep,
densities.
yep.
I mean, what we did with Toll Brothers was unbelievable. We actually, they gave up 23 units, they lowered it a whole story.
And they didn't touch the affordable units either.
No,
Great.
Nope, you
so-
got the number.
I mean, and they changed all the architecture.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we, you know, you just have to
You can
be
say it again.
persistent. And, you know, this is what we want here. And, you know, they got it. It took, what, 7 meetings, but we got it. But,
Stick to the principle, to
you
your
know, it's,
principles, and
you
that's
just
what
have to
you
be
did.
common sense and reasonable and deal with people. So,
Yep,
I'm not going to spend taxpayer dollars just to lose. You know, if I'm going to do it, I want a good shot. So, but I think it's something to point out because I don't see this changing. And maybe you can answer this because I've asked legislators in Trenton and everything else. The state's looking to put in 480,000, I think, affordable units. And they're spreading it throughout the state, except where they're building most of them is in the cities, in Hudson County, Essex County, and they're all exempt. I don't know why those units aren't put in to the number as a whole. And where does Montclair get off being exempt? That's a suburban town. So nobody can give me that answer.
nope, nobody can give you that answer because, and it's interesting, you know, there used to be as some of you may remember, there was a growth share methodology. And that was, if you grow, then you have to provide affordable housing. And that addressed the issue that you're talking about, Mayor, because of all the development and redevelopment that was occurring, for example, in Hudson County. The courts determined that it was inconsistent with the legislation, and therefore they threw it out.
The RCA's.
And the
They threw out-
RCA's as well. 2008, they threw RCA's
Because I
out.
won't name the town, but they're all 21 of the mayors of Union County met with the governor when this all started. And, you know, sometimes I have a big mouth, and I addressed the issue. And Mayor Money Urban says, you know, I could see this being a problem all over the county. I have so much redevelopment I need. I'll take all of theirs.
Yes.
He said, that's not the intent of the legislation. And I'm like, okay. But
Regional contribution, for those of you that, regional contribution agreements where you could transfer a certain percentage of your affordable housing to certain receiving communities and pay for that. And
we
the-
never did that.
I know, you never did it. A lot of communities did it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the urban areas loved it because, as you say, Mayor, they needed that money to do what they needed to do with their constituents. So it's an interesting, there's a lot of history that it's amazing, you know, what goes on. I will say that as much as many of the urban centers or communities don't have, didn't get an obligation, they still are providing affordable housing.
Yeah.
And many of them, many of the Hudson County communities, Newark, they still are, but they don't have they're not under the regulatory piece of this.
Which
So,
makes no sense to me.
no, it doesn't.
No.
And they're not being counted in what the state is saying is the need, the affordable housing need in
Right.
the state. They're not counting these very large towns, municipalities, cities who are creating them. And they're saying there's a void when there's actually not.
As I started when I said, I think you could argue that there's some flaws in what they did. I think I could argue that.
It could go on for a long time.
But it is what it is.
It is.
I guess that's the thing, and you are addressing it, and you're being very realistic, and you're being very, what would I say? Cost efficient
Prudence.
and prudent, yes.
Can I ask two questions a little closer to home? The first is mostly for Mayor and Mr. Kaminsky. You two are on the planning board. You were there for all the Toll Brothers stuff, and there was all these things that came up, and you've touched on a lot of them. Like, well, the intent of the ordinance was this, but the ordinance doesn't say that. You know, the architectural stuff was one that Mayor, you were particularly strong on, and we ended up getting. But do you feel that the new ordinance covers all of those kind of loopholes that Toll was trying to get through?
I think it covers it the best we can.
Okay.
Without getting ourselves in trouble. You know, because, you know, they can appeal even the ordinances that it's not constitutional. So I think Susan did a really good job with that, going as far as we can with what we can do, you know?
Okay, fair enough. And then the second question is just hypothetically.
Uh-oh.
Don't get too worried, but hypothetically, if it was the will of the council to reject one of these four, what would happen?
Reject one of the four what?
Yeah, to vote it down.
Yeah.
The resolutions of the ordinances.
Two resolutions,
Yeah.
three
I
resolutions,
I
two
will
ordinances.
say that, from a planning perspective, your attorney probably could give you a legal, but, my sense is you'd be back in front of the court and you would leave it open for the objectors
Okay.
that were around and still are lurking.
Yeah,
They're still there.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that.
Could I ask a few questions as well? Susan?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. This has been really helpful. It's been a while since we've revisited this, so it's helpful to see. The age restriction, the ordinance then says that our age restriction is defined as 55. I'm sorry, 62. 62.
The proposed ordinance
Proposed ordinance, that's what I'm saying.
defines it now as only 62.
Right. So was that taken into account in the Nokia number of age restricted? It says there were 23 age restricted. That's going to be 62?
That's what the
And up.
definition, that's why
And they
it's
know
all
that,
part of
obviously.
that package.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They've reviewed it.
Okay. The next one was the 69 units for the Lantern Hill. The other three categories add up to 201, which satisfies
Yes.
the obligation. Why are we
Yes.
including the 69 in this round, and does that prevent us from using it in the next round?
Very good question. I'd be surprised if somebody didn't raise that. The numbers don't add up to a point. There was, in the mediation session, there was a very strong opinion, particularly out of Fair Share, that this site, as an overlay only, should be considered as additional affirmative measures over and above the 201. There was a sense across the board that it strengthened, I'll use that term, the position of the borough in terms of the 5 objectors, that this assisted, okay? And so the sense was, why not, really?
But you can't use it again in the 5th round if they come back, if it's not been developed. It doesn't, you can't say, we had 69 extra, we'd like to apply those to,
Well, it's already in the 4th round, so
well, I
you
know, that's
can't
what I'm
do-
asking.
If you hit the 201,
Right,
hypothetically, and that's not developed, it potentially could be put back in the 5th round,
maybe.
maybe.
We don't know,
There's some legal obligations in terms of opening up the round, which is one of the objectors that we have, which is one of the reasons why we don't want that objector to move forward, right? Because it opens up our entire 3rd round, really.
3rd and 4th and whatever.
Right.
Well,
I
the
mean,
fact is, the legislature may change, and, you know, they may vote in something else, and 10 years is a long time.
And,
Yes.
yeah.
So we
Yes.
have to cover ourselves for now.
Okay, and my last question is about the rehabilitation
yes.
units.
Yes.
What is happening with that? Because there's no explanation of how that's going to be accomplished.
No, you already have a rehabilitation program and you work, you have that. You don't have to, you have to just provide an opportunity and funding for that, which you do under your spending plan. You just have to provide and market it, but you don't have to pull people in. If nobody comes and asks for ask for a rehabilitation of a site, you don't have to do anything. You've established a program, you've affirmatively marketed it, and that's it.
Okay, so it's
We
just,
have-
an
We have
opportunity.
used it to upgrade
Yeah.
Yeah.
units
okay.
already
Yeah.
over the years.
But there's no requirement, you just have to have a plan that allows it to happen
Yes.
if indeed somebody asks for it to happen.
Yes.
Is there a formula for like depreciation that like figures out which units need to be
No.
rehabilitated? It's just
There's a very specific, they changed the criteria, they keep changing the criteria.
course
But
they
it's
do.
basically under the census data, overcrowding, there are two other factors. And then they come up with this number for each town. And the number, a lot of times, is nowhere near accurate. But they came up with a number of 20. Supposedly, technically, there are 20 units somewhere in New Providence that are deficient and occupied by affordable households. In most instances, those numbers are so, they're paper. They're on paper, they don't mean anything.
How many units do you have
And
in
you can't
Borough?
use it for cosmetic, you have to use it for major systems, pretty much. So a roof needs replacing, whatever, there are restrictions on those too. You have to pay back the loan, or it's forgiven. There's a whole bunch of stuff dealing with those as well. You just don't get the money and then that's it.
Anyone else have any questions? Why don't I do this, I'll open it up to the public for this subject and this subject only. Seeing no one, I declare the hearing closed. Thank you, Susan.
Oh, thank you, and you really know, it's amazing how much all of you know about affordable housing. And I really commend you for that, because it's not an easy subject. And some of you could come and teach at Rutgers with that.
I'll tell you what, every time I turn around, there's something new, so,
Absolutely. So we'll see what the next step is.
yeah.
Just don't know.
So I mean, we have to cover ourselves for right now. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you,
to see
Susan.
you
Thank you.
all.
Greatly
Thank you,
appreciate
Susan.
it. And I believe we will be putting this presentation up on the Borough website, so if anybody needs to see it again in more detail, or anybody on the video needs to see it, this would be on the website.
okay,
Okay, well, with all of that said,
As you were saying.
as I was saying, now we're going to go into the actual resolutions and ordinances that were just discussed. So, Resolution 2026-096 is a resolution of the Borough of New Providence committing to the adoption of implementing ordinances for the satisfaction of fourth round affordable housing obligations. So this just basically says that we will do all the steps we need to do. So this resolution commits us to adopting ordinances needed to satisfy the borough's fourth round affordable housing obligations. The submitted plan was challenged by several developers and the Fair Share Housing Center. Through the state's Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program, the borough reached an agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center and some challengers, namely VW Murray Hill LLC and Toll NJ1 LLC have withdrawn their objections. So 2 objectors withdrew. However, the challenges from New Providence Mountain Developers LLC and 2100 New Providence LLC remain ongoing. So under the agreement, the borough will introduce required zoning and related ordinances tonight. We will send them to the planning board for their review on March the 17th, 2026, and we will adopt the implementing ordinances and resolutions at the council meeting on March 24th, so in 2 weeks. The next resolution is Resolution 2026-097, which is a resolution of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey, adopting the affirmative marketing plan for the Borough of New Providence. So this resolution adopting an affirmative marketing plan to ensure that all affordable housing units are actively and fairly marketed to very low, and moderate income households as required under the New Jersey's Uniform Housing Affordability Controls. The plan applies to all affordable housing units in the borough, including those from prior housing rounds, the current Fair Share Plan, future developments, and rehabilitated rental units that become vacant. Its goal is to ensure equal housing opportunities and to reach households that are least likely to apply for affordable housing. So there's quite an extensive list of where this marketing occurs, again, with the goal to get the word out to as many people as possible. Okay, the last of the resolutions, oops, I'm just gonna go to the paper. Okay, the last of the resolutions is about our spending plan. So 2026-098 is a resolution of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey, adopting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan for the borough. So the Affordable Housing Spending Plan outlines how funds from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund are allocated to create, rehabilitate, or maintain affordable housing, usually to meet legal obligations for low and moderate income households. It details the use of developer fees, grants, and other revenue for projects like but not limited to new construction, rehabilitation, and in some case, down payment assistance. So those are the three resolutions. So now I'll introduce the two ordinances. Ordinance 2026-01 is an ordinance of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey, amending our zoning ordinance. So this ordinance amends the borough's zoning code to support the development of affordable housing in accordance with the borough's housing element and fair share plan and a January 27th, 2026 mediation agreement related to the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program. It expands and updates the Affordable Housing Overlay, the AHO district, allowing multifamily and townhouse development on several specific properties with required affordable housing set-asides, so at least 20% affordable units. We are creating two new zoning districts. The first one is St. Andrew's Church Affordable Housing District, which permits residential development while maintaining the church, allows up to 27 units with 24 being affordable. It creates the Nokia Affordable Housing District, which allows a large mixed-use redevelopment. This includes housing, townhouses, retail, hotel, offices, restaurants, open space, with up to 500 residential units, including 100 affordable units. It establishes density limits, building heights, setbacks, parking standards, buffers, landscaping, and design requirements for these districts. It updates definitions, zoning map references, residential design standards, parking dimensions, electric vehicle charging standards, and other technical zoning provisions. It requires that affordable units comply with State Council on Affordable Housing, the COA, and the UHAC rules, including income distribution and minimum 30-year affordability controls. So that was a lot said, but I didn't want to leave anything out. I was afraid. Want to make sure we include everything there. And the second ordinance is Ordinance 2026-02, is an ordinance of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey, amending the code of the borough by repealing and replacing Chapter 275, Housing in its entirety. So this ordinance repeals and replaces Chapter 275, Housing of the Borough of New Providence Code to update the borough's affordable housing regulations in accordance with recent amendments of the New Jersey Fair Housing Act, signed in 2024, and new state regulations adopted by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs and the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. The new chapter establishes updated rules for how the borough will meet its constitutional obligation to provide affordable housing for very low, and moderate income households. So again, as Susan had mentioned, and as we just went through, this is what we are required to do to move forward to hopefully get our compliance with round 4 and move past this. We don't know what comes next, but we are doing our best.
We're gonna take a drink of water.
I think I'm going to.
And
So-
just to make sure that I'm crystal clear, all this goes the way that we hope and everything passes and the court locks it in, the two other challengers go away?
Well, we hope so.
I mean,
I would hope.
they could still
Appeal, I guess.
or apply, put in an application, right? Nothing prevent them from doing that, and
Okay.
try and get, some, what do you call it?
I think that's a Billy question.
They could make an application,
Yeah.
but they would require variance
Variance
relief
or
to
relief,
to
there would be
proceed
variance relief.
if the plan was approved by
Which-
the courts.
The
which-
objectors
which-
that we satisfied should take care of that.
Okay.
which allows us to deny
Yeah.
such application.
And that's not like we wouldn't have a necessary obligation to approve that variance in that case.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, you're up, community activities.
Thank you. Resolution 99 is a salary resolution for our recreation. This is just hiring new staff for our baseball program and our youth adult classes at an hourly rate. Resolution 100 is a resolution approving requisition R2600542 for Ben Schaefer Recreation, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $9,123.61 for Serenity Spot and additional gate for Oakwood Park Playground project using the ESCNJ co-op. This is additional accessory pieces for the Oakwood Park playground. The grant funding will be used to cover this. Resolution 101 is a resolution approving requisition R2600562 for advanced athletic services in an amount not to exceed $12,300 for BD field repairs. Now, BD Bard Field was the field that we were giving over off of Central Ave, so that the field has been pretty beaten up, actually. It's actually can get a little dangerous if there's too many divots and things of that nature. So what we're proposing is to basically reseed the entire field, aerate the entire field, and level it out. So once we do that, we'll have to close the field for a couple of months. So most likely, if we're lucky, we'll get open back in the fall.
Okay, you might as well keep going, engineering.
Resolution 102 is a resolution requesting an extension to the construction contract award deadline for the NJDOT fiscal year 2024 municipal aid grant program. This is for our Maple Street improvement project. This is requesting an extension from April to October. Would like to incorporate the Maple Street project with our Safe Routes to School project as well. Resolution 103 is a resolution approving change order number 1 for Lilich Corporation for asbestos abatement at the old Borough Hall in an amount not to exceed $13,900 using the Bergen County Co-op. This is a change order, and as you know, as you rip apart old buildings, new problems arise. This is additional asbestos that they found, unfortunately, in the attic. Resolution 104 is a resolution approving requisition R2600481 for innovative fire technologies in an amount not to exceed $17,919 for replacement of fire alarm system at the Barabash Manor. So we're going to be replacing the entire fire alarm system there, and we'll be utilizing affordable housing funding, as we were talking about earlier today. Resolution 105 is a resolution approving requisition R2600533 for Rayner Group, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $4,456 for elevation of the HVAC system at the DeCorso Center. So in the last flood, our HVAC system, as well as the next resolution with kitchen exhaust, were underwater. And once it went underwater, it needed to be remediated, and that cost the borough some funds. So we're proposing to lift these up, so if there's any more flooding there, we won't have to worry about that. And that's the next resolution, 106, which is a resolution approving requisition R2600544 for EVI Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1,950 for elevation of the kitchen exhaust equipment at the DeCorso Center. And both of these, we received multiple bids, and these are the lower bids.
Okay. Finance, Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Resolution 107, which is a transfer to appropriation reserves resolution. This is typical this time of year before we go ahead and approve and pass the budget for 2026. We're moving money from the 2025 budget lines to OE for snow removal. Resolution 108 is a trust fund transfer resolution. Again, moving or transferring money from 2025 OE snow removal account to the Storm Recovery Trust Fund. So So we did spend a little bit more money with snow removal this year, unfortunately. Hopefully, we're done with
Hopefully
that.
that's it.
Yeah.
Don't say that out loud.
Resolution 109 is a resolution authorizing payment of the attached bills payable list. The amount is $3,373,995.19. Some of the more significant items included our March school tax levy to the Board of Education. That was $1,513,490. We had a bond principal payment to the depository trust for $950,000. We had 2 interest payments on the general obligation bonds, 2019 and 2015. One was $66,500, the other $56,700. March healthcare for $168,720, that went to Horizon Healthcare. The police department renovation, the architect is Meisel? Usual. That does, tough one on the tongue. $158,400. The March appropriation for our library was $119,967. Again, snow removal for Woodland Builders, $56,502. Our February garbage fee for suburban disposal was $49,083. We had the annual Microsoft licenses to Docs Electronics, $37,254. Our February recycling was $34,420. And our electricity for January, $30,407.
Okay. Resolution 110, approving proposal from Axon Enterprise, not to exceed $228,480.85. This is a 5-year agreement for body cameras for the police. But the good thing about this is that these new body cameras can actually translate, what is it, Bernadette, 26 different languages. So, police officer goes up to a car and somebody speaking Spanish or Greek or whatever, the patrol officer will know exactly what that person's saying.
That is very
You don't need a translator.
nice.
So I said, can't they get one in the court?
And it's 2-way, correct?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Resolution 111 is authorizing the Borough of New Providence to apply to Congressman Kane's office community project funding grant for portable radios, and that's for a total amount of $245,000 to replace 47 portable radios. We have raffle applications, all from OLP Church, RA 1256, 1257, and 1258, and they've all been properly prepared and reviewed. Okay, Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 112, this is a resolution authorizing the Borough of New Providence to apply for Congressman Keene's FY 2027 Community Project Funding Grant for Department of Public Works Facility. And this is seeking permission to request up to $1 million to go towards the demolition and construction of the new DPW facility.
Awesome.
Right. Okay, committee reports. First, Matt, I want to congratulate you. You got the Good Scout Award this year. I know Stacy Mage got one. Retired Sergeant Chad Wilson. Link.
Barbara
Boy,
Dimitri.
those kids are incredible, aren't they? They really are.
They're
And,
Barbara from Scouts?
Deborah Dabney?
Oh,
Barbara Dabney.
Barbara Dabney.
Dabney. I know she was like the chairman for Cub Scouts at Roberts. In fact, Roberts and Soper combined.
Yep.
So, is anybody else?
Nimitz.
And the
Nimitz
cricket club.
and Moynihan.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the cricket club.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, it was a great evening. Great evening.
And Rick Anderson
And
from
Rick
the Historical
Anderson.
Society.
Yeah, I don't know how he does that. He's all over the place.
He
isn't
is, he
He's
is.
great.
He is great.
All right. Okay, I just want to bring up, one thing about the police department. Because Danny always gives us a year-end report. And I just wanted to give a couple numbers here. The police department handled calls for service 24,818 calls for service. That's a lot of calls. They made 3,115 motor vehicle stops, issued 2,649 traffic summonses. From those, 25 were DWI arrests. Officers conducted 2,674 traffic details, responded to 380 motor vehicle crashes, including 262 with no injuries, 62 with, 47 hit and runs, and 5 pedestrian related. The officers issued over 1,232 parking summons. Other essential tasks, they responded to 874 medical calls, 37 mental emergency calls, 211 fire-related calls, 39 lockouts, and 102 animal-related calls. 5,412 property and area checks, and 2,954 school facility checks. So they do a lot of work over the years. You also had an emergency management a meeting and talked with our new emergency management coordinator, John Signorello, and he talked to us about the snowstorms, this and that, and the future of some of the things with the fire department needs. So besides that, we'll go to Alan.
Not really too much to discuss. Sustainability Committee, you know, we talked about free cycle. April is going to be a plant and seed exchange, so that'll be advertised. We had our lottery for the community garden, and overwhelmingly, we had a lot of subscribers to that. We're also finding out about our composting program. The Board of Health, we talked about fee structure for violations, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Kathleen?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention is that we had our first meeting of the newly reconstituted Diversity Committee last night with our new co-chairs, and it was really well attended. I think we had, 12 or 13 people on the call. It was really great. And just laying the framework, okay, what night do we always want to meet, like what kinds of, who can be secretary, stuff like that was going on, but they also talked about what they want to set as their goals going forward. So I think it was a really great start for the team, and Matt and I were both there, and we're very excited.
Good.
That's it.
Nadine?
Very good. Not much more to say, I think I've said enough. But right before this meeting, I was on our periodic call with mental health advocacy and education cross-town group, and they're such an excited group to get this going. We're looking to add a couple more towns. They were happy to hear about our banner progress, and stay tuned because a lot of good stuff to come.
Okay.
But other than that, operations normal.
All right, thank you. Matt?
So, thank you for mentioning the police, by the way. I actually had an emergency yesterday. My daughter passed out in the middle of the kitchen, and I had to call 911. And luckily for me, I watched a lot of The Pit over the last couple of weeks, so I was really prepared.
You were ready.
Actually, yeah.
I don't want to laugh at it, but
No, she was dehydrated, and so she just got lightheaded and fell. But long story, Officer Lindsay Knopf and Officer Kevin Gutierrez, they were there in seconds, and professional, got her comfortable, got the oxygen out. EMS came, it wasn't our guys, it was Union County. Our guys were obviously tied up, but I just wanted to reiterate what you say all the time. I trust these guys with my life, and obviously, it was comforting to know and have them there so quickly and so professional and prepared. So,
How's she
just
doing
wanted
now?
to thank them for that. And she's great. She like got an IV and she actually turns out she had the flu, so they put her on Tamiflu, so.
I thought you cooked.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost took a header down the stairs trying to get down there fast enough to catch her, because she's fainting and I almost literally, terrible. Gotta be more calm. I'm usually very calm like this. But anyway, planning board, we have a planning board meeting next week. It's just gonna be approving or reviewing these ordinances and sending them back for final approval. And then we also are reviewing the resolution for Toll Brothers, so that should be fun. Other than that, operations normal.
Lisa,
So just to keep everyone up to date with our budget, we did receive draft number 3, and gonna hopefully meet sometime next week to review that. Hopefully by that time, we will have our state aid numbers, because we don't have those numbers yet. We're anticipating, like I said, by the end of this week. Hopefully after that, we will get the budget out to everybody here, and the plan is for the budget to be presented on March 24th. Okay, so that's that. And then America 250 met yesterday, and they again talk about an excited
Another excited group.
with a million things going on. So the calendar just keeps going and going. There, if you haven't, this is on the website. It is the calendar of events for the entire year. If you haven't looked at it, you've already missed some things, like we were saying. Some of the upcoming events that, that are gonna be great. They had the Gilded Age of Carl Schultz at the library, but it was so popular and well attended, they're gonna be doing it again on May 17th. Of course, we are getting ready for Reverend Caldwell Day on April 18th, and that's gonna go from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And basically what that day is gonna be, it's a day of giving and service. We are going to have donation sites all through town at different businesses, at different locations, the libraries, some of the schools, at Link, at OLP, and a list of things that you can donate. So everything from, aluminum cans at the fire department to clothing at the New Providence athletic boosters at the high school, eyeglasses at the Lions, for the New Providence Lions, food at Link. So the list goes on, and we're gonna put out a map, and we're gonna star all the areas where the donation sites are and exactly what we're looking to collect. And we will hopefully get that out to you guys, to the public very soon. But please keep that day open, April 18th for Reverend Caldwell Day. And also, if you haven't seen, there is a display at the library for Reverend Caldwell and the history behind that. I am not a history person, and so they start talking about, but obviously there's deep roots in New Providence pertaining to, and I think the Historical Society could probably speak to that better than I can, but deep roots in New Providence pertaining to the Revolutionary War, and Reverend Caldwell, and all the supplies that he gathered, and that's why there's the link between collecting donations and Reverend Caldwell. So stay tuned for a little bit more history on that. I'll bring it at the next meeting. The Historical Society does want to come and present to council a list of all the things they're doing, so hopefully, if we can't get them at this next meeting, I think we talked about that, but hopefully maybe the first meeting in April before Reverend Caldwell Day.
Maybe right before.
Yeah, right before. The library's also doing a million things, and I just wanted to kind of share this. I don't even know if you could see it, but they're so, Stacy's so creative, and she's amazing. She's amazing for this town. So they found a way to incorporate America 250 and the Reading Dragon and the summer reading, and it's gonna be called Read White and Blue, and the colors are gonna be red, white, and blue, and you still have the little dragon. I don't know if you could see them, but and then there's like little stars in the dragon for the 13 stars on the flag. Just so creative and so exciting. So stay tuned for that as well. I believe that's all I have.
Okay. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. And just to pick up on what Councilwoman McKnight was saying, just go to a historical society meeting and you will learn so much history about New Providence and the area. It's absolutely fantastic. From my seat, still need to get a communications meeting on the book, so hopefully we can get that going soon. If you missed the last Board of Education meeting, you missed the best one of the year because it's when they do the curriculum, and it's just absolutely fantastic. They did this one thing where they had students from the high school music program compose a piece of music like right there on the spot, and then they played it. So it's just fantastic. Let's see, a couple updates from the county commissioner meetings. The Union County Vocational Technical School was honored for all of the fantastic work that they do, and they do have many amazing and impressive programs. And then they highlighted a couple of resources at the county level that I didn't know about. There's a Union County Family Clinic where you can get free vaccines and other services. That's available at ucnj.org/clinic. The 2026 county recycling program is starting up in May and April. ucnj.org/recycling. And to continue a theme, the Union County directory is now fully digitized. So all the people and the services, park information, fees, all of that stuff is now all fully available up on their website. And you guessed it, ucnj.org/directory. So check that out for more information. And the next mental health A&E committee meeting is next Wednesday, so a week from tomorrow, the 18th, in the Lincoln Room. So please show up. As Councilman Joffrey mentioned, there's a lot going on, and there's a definite need for people to help us out with all the stuff that we're planning, especially for May and September. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Bernadette?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Train station parking permits are now available for 2627. Residents can go online and get their permit, and out-of-town permits will be available on March 19th. The price is the same as last year. Grass and brush collection will begin borough-wide on Monday, April 6th, and it goes right through December 7th. So I'm sure if your yard looks like mine, there's lots of
There's a lot.
lots waiting for the curb. And lastly, the Westfield Health Department is going to be doing a lead testing day here at the borough, where you can bring in consumer products if you're concerned if they have lead in them or not. It'll be held on March 30th from 1 to 3 in the Lincoln Room. That's all I have.
Okay, at this time we have a public hearing. Anybody wishing to address council, give you your name and address.
Good evening. Rich Cuomo, 126 Bradford Street. So I'm here on behalf of Rise New Providence to raise a specific topic related to the budget. We're looking to make an explicit request regarding the budget and ensuring that there's an allocation related to our flooding and infrastructure problem that we've talked about historically. So obviously we understand it's still being developed. Sounds like third version, so that's good. Hopefully there's already some money in there, but we do believe an allocation for flooding mitigation should be reflected proactively in both the short and long-term budgets. It's really imperative that the council takes this seriously and at a minimum designates $1 million, which is the same amount that was spent last year, right, for the Deerfield Flume, as well as the work that was done on Bradford 3rd and 4th. Ideally, even more would be allocated given the severity of the problem around town, but we'll start small. We're asking for the $1 million. To further break down the request, we're looking for 2 explicit line items. First, in terms of the short-term operating budget, right, a defined allocation for practical, controllable work, such as drainage maintenance and monitoring, data collection, and then repairs and targeted mitigation for some of those areas that, like I mentioned, Deerfield and Bradford, but extending that to some of the other hot spots around town. Second, in terms of the long-term capital budget, it's really time that we start having a recurring line item be put in the budget where we start to build up a reserve over time so we can address some of those larger scale infrastructure problems, right? Obviously, as we've talked about, there's going to be some shorter term things that can be done. And then also, we're gonna have probably some massive work from an infrastructure perspective that it would be just really beneficial to start getting that in the line item explicitly now so we can start building it up over time. Again, as we publicly stated, right, we're not expecting every flooding hotspot to be addressed this year. We know this is going to take time, but having the explicit line item in the budget is a step towards, showing the council's commitment to improving this in the future. And to ground why this matters, we have a couple residents are going to come up, share their stories, talk about flooding around their houses and how it impacts them. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Calvin Young, 25 Delwick. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name's Calvin Young. I live on Delwick Lane in New Providence. I wanted to bring up the stormwater issue that impacts my property as well as a number of my neighbors' properties, some of who are here tonight. So we have that short preview of the spring weather, so that's kind of a reminder that the thunderstorms and the rainstorms will be coming again this spring, fall, summer, and then into the fall. So we wanted to bring up these issues again just to continue the conversation about what can be done to fix those issues. I was here in the council meeting in October where I described the rainwater from the street overwhelming the municipal sewer system in my area, causing a backflow and flooding my area during those periods of heavy rain. Once the municipal storm sewer system becomes overwhelmed, the water collects in my area and then runs into my garage, and then it impacts my neighbors similarly, where it flows in the garage good 18 to 24 inches of water, so it does damage equipment in the garage. I've lost power equipment and things like that, and then as well as the cleanup where there's the silt and everything. It just gets into all the
garage.
yeah. So it becomes a real big problem, and then drying it out so you don't get mold problems and all those other issues that come along with water damage. So once it floods into the garage, so it's caused property damage and loss of equipment and all those efforts to clean it. I have talked to the building department in town about the issue, and they have come out to scope the storm sewer out in my immediate area. But however, I've hired an engineer at my own expense to evaluate the storm sewer system and all the gradient and elevation in my area. And in his professional opinion, we shouldn't have water issues in that area due to the elevation, but it's mainly because of the way the storm sewer's running through the property that it backs up and rises up and collects in that backyard area that impacts all the houses. And he thinks that there might be an issue further down the line in the storm sewer system, so he has been in contact with the building department to either scope out or investigate those other areas further down the line where there may be blockages or similar issues that have been addressed in other parts of the town where there was, due to aging infrastructure, that essentially the pipes have collapsed or there's blockages in some form, just impeding the flow of water down. So as a supporter of the RISE NP initiative to work collaboratively with the borough, I would like to ask a couple questions. Whether my area between Delwick and Hickson are on the town's official stormwater hotspot map to be addressed at some point.
I think it is, right? Yeah.
It is, okay.
There were, how many spots? There were like about 10 spots that were hot spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. In terms of communication with the borough, where can residents like myself receive updates and collaborate with the town to improve the safety and quality of life in the town?
Well, the first thing I asked the residents to do had a problem. Right after the storm, was write Congressman Kane's office. Nobody did it. And now we're asking for it, and now all of a sudden we got him. I've already talked to Congressman Kane's office. We won't get money from the federal government if it gets approved for at least 2 years. That's the way the federal government works. We made a commitment that we will have a line item in the budget every single year, just like we do with the paving, all right? It doesn't come close to $1 million a year. But whatever we can afford to do, that's what we're gonna do. You know, the budget process is an exhausting thing, as Brian and Lisa can tell you. And it's gonna be a tough year this year. We haven't even got our state funding yet. And I was down the budget address today. There's a lot of issues. The state's not in good shape. And we'll have to see how the numbers come out. I know the Board of Education, even though they have their separate thing, I mean, it's all the same tax dollars. And I know they have to provide now for preschool, special ed, and a lot of different things. So I can't give you a commitment on how much money we can put in the budget, but we did make a commitment that we will, you know, it's gonna be an ongoing process. It'll be a permanent landmark in the budget. So we'll do what we can do. We're going to the hot spots first to see what we can do. The only reason is we were able to spend $1 million last year was because we had money put aside, you know, but that money was exhausted last year.
Yeah, I
So,
remember you mentioned the Deerfield, they had to do that twice.
Deerfield and where Kate is, down by her, there were some problems. But like I said, just one day of scoping is $7,000. So you can understand how that multiplies out, going through all the lines. But you are one of the hot spots, and if they come upon something, we'll fix it. So,
How much area do they cover with that 7,000?
Depends on what they find.
yeah. Like, we lost a camera in one. So, you know, you can't give a specific number because you don't know what you're gonna find. So, we're just trying to do the common sense thing and take care of the problem areas first, and then over the years expand out.
Yeah, similar to what Rich was mentioning, that we do recognize that it is going to, it's not gonna be a
Oh, no,
an overnight solution, but it'll take time, but it's good that, you know, you're committed to addressing the problem over time.
And just to build on what Mayor Morgan said, next meeting, right, we'll have those numbers.
Hopefully, we don't know yet.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
In theory, by the next meeting, we should know what those numbers are, but right now, they are in the plan. As the mayor said, it's not $1 million, but it is a substantial set aside for the coming year for work, so.
And that'll be in the budget that we're gonna see at the next council
Yeah.
meeting, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's available to the public.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in theory, barring unforeseen circumstances, by next meeting, that should be a publicly available number.
And when we get that, I mean, we said we'd talk to Kate and Rich when something firm comes up. And we will let them know and get it back, they can bring it back to you guys where we're going. But right now, we don't know anything because we don't know the budget numbers. But you do have our commitment. We know the hot spots, and we're gonna try and remedy them first. So,
Yeah, and then within that process, if it'll be helpful if the town, the building department had to speak with my engineer, if he can help in any way.
well, I can't go by what your engineer says. I gotta go by what mine does,
Yeah, if
you know?
they need to
Because
connect,
what you're talking about is us going on your private property and we're really not allowed to do that. I don't know if you have an easement in the back or whatever.
There's an easement there, but the water's coming up from the town's own, the storm sewer lines onto my
I
property.
can't
so-
change physics. If the river backs up, Saltbrook backs up, and the storm sewer, there's nowhere it goes. I have the same problem at my house, so.
Yeah,
I get it.
as far as the river elevations, he checked the elevation of where the river is, and it's I'm situated a good 10 feet
Oh, I know.
above the river, so it shouldn't be a river issue.
It is if it backs up, because there's nowhere for the water to go. If the river's up here, over the 10-foot level, and it's at that Saltbrook's all filled, the water can't push into the river because it's already full. That's where our problem lies. And we can't go into the river and clean it out. DEP already told us we can't go in there. So that's why we're trying to get this grant from Congressman Kane's office. We had one in like 3-4 years ago, and Congress knocked it out at the last moment. And that's why we're getting more and more towns involved, because the more towns you get involved, the better chance you're gonna get the grant.
I see, okay.
It's a very frustrating process. When I was a kid, you could swim across the Passaic River. You could probably walk across it now.
Yeah.
So, but I understand your frustration. I feel for you, because I get it myself. And I'm not happy about it, but, you know, I can't change the law of physics. And I can't change the law of the DEP and the federal government. In fact, we were told the only one that can bypass DEP is the Army Corps of Engineers. So hopefully they can come up with a solution.
I see, okay. I appreciate the council's attention to these concerns and your ongoing commitment to addressing the stormwater challenges impacting our community. I'm hopeful.
We want to take care of this. It's a matter of money, and it's a matter of getting, you know, being able to take care of the problem. I mean, our engineer even said the problem is the river. And there's nowhere for the water to go. Because when they do what they call a heck analysis, they also see what happens here, what happens downstream to other towns. So it's a big involved process.
I see, okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hey, Sarah.
Evening, Mayor and council members. Nice to see some new faces I haven't been in front of before. Sarah Aarons, 99 Crest Road. So I'm speaking tonight as both a resident and one of the identified flooding hotspot areas in support of RISE NP's effort to work collaboratively with the borough on stormwater solutions. So over the past 4.5 years, our neighborhood has experienced significant flooding. My next door neighbor, who you will hear from tonight, has had water inside their home multiple times. In my case, the municipal stormwater culvert that runs directly alongside my house sustained significant structural damage during Hurricane Ida, which most of you know already, and it's continued to deteriorate since. The fencing and retaining structure within the drainage easement are now compromised and leaning into the channel. During intense storms, water exits the culvert forcibly and debris moves quickly through that corridor. In its current condition, the damaged infrastructure creates a risk of obstruction, which could worsen flooding in the next major rain event or storm. This is not just about one property, it reflects a broader issue. So aging stormwater infrastructure that needs consistent inspection, maintenance, and transparent communication with residents. So RISE NP has been respectfully asking for clear identification of flooding hotspots, public updates on what infrastructure is being evaluated, a structured plan for maintenance and capital improvements, and better communication before and after severe weather events as well. So we understand that infrastructure improvements take time and funding. What residents are asking for right now is just visibility and collaboration. I would also like to ask the following, and it's similar to what Calvin was talking about, but is my area, specifically the Maple Street and Crest Road culvert corridor, on the town's official hotspot list?
I think it is.
Okay, that's great. And what can residents?
Well, Kate sent us the hotspots. I mean, you know, we know where the hotspots are.
Is it or is it not? You said they painted it.
I think Kate
I
sent it to
don't have,
Bernadette.
I don't have the list in front of me.
Okay.
Well, that was one of the things we asked for, is you guys to give us the hotspots. Okay, so.
I understand the borough had engineers doing mapping effort. Is that correct?
Mapping efforts? I know we have an engineer that's out there looking at this problem.
Okay.
The camera, you mean, right?
Well, scoping is one aspect of what's needed for sure, but I think there was more just an evaluation or study being done to identify exactly and map out where the hot spots are. And I
We
thought
know
there
where
was the actual.
hotspots are. We've known
Okay.
for years.
Can I
You
just say,
know, it's
so,
just, when, the problem is,
can I just real quick? So
yeah,
identifying the hotspots was to get our engineer to go and look at immediately, right? To just look immediately to determine if there's anything that can be done as soon as possible, which was done. I believe that was kind of been accomplished. They, reviewed everything. I know where you're asking for is there's been deterioration, it sounds like, in your section over that culvert area and in terms of that, and maybe that wasn't looked at. And I don't know what the engineer looked at. I haven't seen any reports, if you will, but I think the whole concept was, let's look at the hot spots. Let's have our engineer go look at those based on the flooding and what we had, with the rainstorms and whatnot. And then from there, and you can talk more about this, but from there, it was more of developing a plan. So address what we can immediately, and then start developing a plan for those specific hotspots, right? What's more priority? What can we do that might take 6 months, a year, whatever? And I think that's kind of where you guys are at right now.
well, right now, with the snow and everything else, you really can't scope. So, like we explained to Rich and Kate, this isn't gonna start until the spring, because they can't do it with frozen stuff and things like that. But the DPW has been in the concrete culvert piece. They've been out cleaning them out. They did that last fall.
Which part of the concrete culvert? Where? Do you know?
I know down by Dale's Drive or behind there, and then up along the community pool, places like that.
I would invite everyone to come and look at the concrete culvert next to my house. It's a giant mess.
Okay.
And then to that
Yeah.
point, I think, I don't know the list of hotspots. I never looked or saw it, to be honest, but, because that committee's working on that, but, we did say, right, if there's additional hotspots, let us know, right? You guys have eyes and ears on the ground, so if it's not identified and you feel like there's a hotspot, let us know, and I think we should definitely have our engineers go out and take a look.
Yeah, I think we'd be more than happy to, and I can't speak for Kate because I haven't obviously, Kate and Rich, I haven't been in all the meetings, and they're certainly leading the effort from a Rise NP standpoint, but I think the group is more than willing to provide that information data. I think it's just a level of transparency and communication that's consistently being looked for to collaborate with the town.
I will say that I've been to your house like several times, and yeah, it's definitely, you can see the deterioration like in front of your eyes.
Even since October, though, it's gotten much worse.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen it before October, so.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. Thank you. So we all just want the same thing, generally, when it comes down to it. Safer homes, protected property, and a proactive approach before the next storm and not after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm also with MP Rise. My name is Nikki Wichendahl. I live at 105 Crest Road. When my husband, Rob, is sitting back there, and I purchased our home back in 2024, we were aware that it was in a flood zone, and we accepted that risk. What we did not accept is what we were living with today. Our first major flood came with Hurricane Ida, and since then we have flooded 2 more times in 2024 and 2025. And they were significant floods, not just garage floods. These are not isolated weather events. This is a pattern, and it's getting worse. Each flood brought significant water into our home. We estimate these repaired floods have reduced our home's value significantly, even against the price we originally paid, knowing we were in a flood zone. Additionally, we applied to the Blue Acres program and were quickly denied. After our most recent flood, our home developed a persistent musty odor. Professional air quality testing confirmed elevated levels of aspergillus. It's a type of mold. Remediation.
Aspergillus.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I'm a microbiologist, so.
Remediation will cost approximately $55,000. The cost, our flood insurance is denied because post-flood mold is not a covered loss. On top of that, we have spent $8,000 on engineering surveys, faced another $4,000 for a remediation plan, and construction costs that may exceed $25,000. We know the town expanded drainage in the culvert near our home, and I live next door to Sarah, from 1 pipe to 3 in about 2000. That expansion is no longer adequate. We're doing everything homeowners can do, but we can't fix infrastructure. We're asking the town to evaluate drainage capacity and flow in the area and share a clear plan and timeline. I have 3 specific questions to the council tonight. I think Sarah asked for one of them, is if we're in the hot spot, and I'm still not clear if that answer is a yes or not. And the status of the 2 action line requests we submitted last year regarding the storm drain estimates on our property and runoff of Maple. We haven't heard anything. And what can residents expect from the town in terms of a clear plan and timeline and ongoing communication? I think we've talked about that a couple times tonight. I'm not asking for sympathy. We're asking for accountability, communication, of which we've heard nothing from, and the infrastructure investment this neighborhood deserves.
Well, for one, the communication, we sat down with Kate and Rich.
Nikki, how do you spell your last name?
Ready? It's WICHTENDAHL. Thank you.
I wish I could tell, I'm not an engineer. An engineer is going to have to go out there. There's supposed to be retention basins that were put in decades ago that were supposed to take care of that. And it was a federal project. It wasn't a local project. So I think we'd ask our colleagues to take a look at it and see if we can't get something going over there.
That was back in July, right? That we put in those 2 action line items. And we, myself, forget about MP Rise for a moment, have heard nothing.
I don't know. We were taking care of the flume and over by Kate's house.
We gotta take a look. We'll take a look.
Somebody came
Yeah,
by,
take a look.
they looked at something, and then we haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
I just wrote a note to look up your action line. I'm gonna take a look.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
curious, how do you actually get on like the hotspot? Is when somebody submits a letter and then it's automatically included?
Good question. I don't know.
That's what we said. Send us people. Kate said that she was has a whole group and they were going to send the hotspots.
We did on February 5th. Kate Gallick, 31 West 3rd Street. Listen, I think what we're witnessing here is a convergence of lack of communication from the borough to the residents for months. We sat down on January 29th. It was an excellent meeting. Rich and I were completely revitalized by this work and excited. We sent a recap expressing what we heard, asked for confirmation. We did not hear back. We still followed up on February 5th with our full hotspot list. All the roads, what we know. We asked for reconciliation for that list. We put a deadline, a suggested deadline of 2 full weeks, February 19th. We have not even received a single reply to that email. We continue to come. This is why we're here. It's all meant to say, listen, we aren't getting anything we need outside of this forum. So unfortunately, we have to come here and share our story and try to get some answers with you all.
Wait a minute. Bernadette sent you a thing about us, the towns all getting together and you sending the letters that we requested by
And I
everybody to send to Kane's office.
And I sent it out within 2 hours of receipt of the email.
Fine, but you say we're not communicating. You got a communication.
But we're missing the
And-
connection between
But
what Keene does.
Rich, didn't we explain that no work was gonna be done until the spring?
With all due respect, Rich and I are on the same page about everything, and I'm standing right here.
Okay, did we not say that nothing was gonna be done until the spring?
No, that wasn't what I heard in the
Well,
meeting.
that's what was said, because the pipes freeze, there's a whole lot of different things going on, and the cameras can't even get into the pipes.
We talked about using this time to understand what the hot spots are, so we can at least tell the people, these are the hot spots, you're on the list. And then Bernadette was gonna let us know when the Stormwater Committee, which we've not heard about since October 11th, was gonna get back together, and they were gonna talk, and they were gonna make a plan, and there were gonna be communications. I don't even know if the Stormwater Committee has gotten together since that time.
No.
I'm seeing shaking
And
heads.
and I also explained that we don't know how much money we can put into it, because
fine.
we don't have our budget numbers yet.
That's fine, we're not holding you to that. We're gonna come here next week or whenever it happens and listen to the
Okay,
presentation.
listen to what I'm saying.
I am.
We explained that nothing's gonna happen until the spring. We don't even know how much money we can put into there yet.
And respectfully, nothing happening till the spring in the ground. If you want to say that it can happen, you can't put a scope in a pipe in winter. I don't know that information. I believe it to be a little shaky, but I'm not an engineer just like yourself. But much should be happening between now and spring to coordinate our efforts, because spring is here. The easements at the Saltbrook Museum and heading down have been full since Friday morning. They have not emptied. I go every single morning, and if we get another storm, you're talking about the whole town. You're talking about OLP all the way around. So what are we doing to coordinate how we will manage this stuff together? This is a huge issue. Talk about a hot topic. And everyone wants to have their little piece of it when things are going well. But we're here right now because we are on the cusp of things not going well. We're on the cusp of potential tragedies like we've seen in neighboring towns. All we've asked for since August 12th, whenever that first meeting is that I stood up here, is open communication, and we can't even
something a little more
get
proactive so that
get a
we can
response
plan.
to an email after we sat down with you all in a room and shared much goodwill. So we will continue to be here every meeting with the next hotspots that we have on our list until we can reconcile the list, we can understand that they're on your list. And what did we say, Bernadette? I said this in the meeting. Even if you say they're on the list, we won't know which one will be first until approximately April or May. Well, that is communication, and that's something we can use to tell the town you're here. But you sent us the Keene letter. I had it out in seconds to 100 people in my group. Whether they did it or not, I can't control, but it was out quick, and we did it. And I did that even when I have had no reply from anybody here.
Well, I'll tell you what. You will get a reply, okay? And I want to get this solved more than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Nothing's going to be happening until we get the budget done, see what kind of money we have, and what we can do in these hotspots. That's just reality. And, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm just blowing it off, because I'm not. Josephine called last year and needed her she said, oh, it's old, there's a bunch of garbage there. I personally went down there, didn't I? For hours.
Mayor, this is not an attack on you.
But you know what?
Can I just interject? And I'm sorry to cut you off, because I think what you're asking for is some kind of documentation of what we know to be true and some kind of idea of what steps need to be taken. Maybe not even the sequence of the steps, but what steps need to be taken. And then once we know what sequence we need, then we can figure out what we can pay for.
Yeah, much
When we
like the
get the
affordable
budget.
housing presentation that happened today was a great
That's
example
been going on
of.
for 10 years.
No, but
But
the
they don't
presentation,
have
the
anything in
education of
writing.
the information. For instance, when Bernadette told us how a budget gets approved, it's like how a bill becomes a law. You know, imagine the little infographic that you watch when you're in fourth grade or whatever. Like,
Right,
we're
Schoolhouse
looking,
Rock.
we're
Yes, I
looking
understand.
for education so that we can be there with you, so that we can get ahead of it. For instance, the donation program, let's add flooding recovery and remediation items like fans and shop vacs and stuff to that. There's so much that can be done so that when we have an event, which it's here, it's coming, it's literally still in the easement, we are prepared as people, as a community, to be resilient, to come together while we map everything out. That feels like a very simple ask.
You know, and a plan hypothetically could be like a multi-year document. So spring of '26, you know,
Yeah.
establish a budget,
Yeah.
establish a list of hot spots. You know,
Pick off the little ones.
yeah, create a 2026 execution
Yes.
schedule. Summer
And
of
we're happy,
2020.
we've offered to become a committee like sustainability, like diversity, to do all the legwork and the thinking that we can do and say, okay, now you tell us what can actually happen, but to give you a starting
I
point.
understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand, we have to hire the engineers, we have to do all these things. It's just not, you just can't go in and say, oh, this is what we're gonna do, X, Y, and Z, right away. There
That-
has to
that's
be
not-
a plan.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this happened in July.
I know. And then we just got through
She got wiped out.
feet of snow. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're asking,
We took care of that, we spent $750,000 just trying to get it. And it's not gonna happen overnight, and I keep trying to explain, and it's real good to get up here and say, boom, boom, boom. I'm a realist. I'm a common sense type guy. I know what it takes just to get approvals from DEP. It can take years.
You know, we don't know. We
Well,
don't.
I've told you this.
No, you've told us in broad strokes. We're looking for an action plan. Sometimes it's called a work back plan. So we want to accomplish this. Well, that's going to take us 18 months to even be able,
You've
that's
been-
all,
You've
that's,
been talking to Carmen.
Yeah.
Carmen's our engineer.
Yeah.
Has he talked to you about these things?
we
He's
haven't
talked to you
spoken since
about
fall.
your problems, right?
Yeah, I
Now
understand.
you gotta give us a chance in the spring and the money that we can appropriate to take care of these problems.
Okay, and if anyone else here is understanding, because I can agree to disagree. We're at a brick wall, and it's unfortunate, but I do think others here.
It's not a brick wall.
No, it's between you and I of what communication looks like, clear, transparent, detailed communication, and what action looks like. They're two different things.
Well, you're right, we're on a different page, because I have to deal with the reality. You're dealing with it emotionally, and I can't. No, you're not.
It's okay, guys, it's okay, it's okay.
You
It's-
have to, hey, listen.
Emotional.
I hear what goes on out there. You know?
No, sir, I don't know what you mean.
But, you know what, you can boo me, I'm doing the best I can with the money we have to take care of all your problems.
Be better organized.
So listen, this is the point in my public relations training where you step away because things will have already escalated to the point of an uncomfortable quality. You don't let me speak, or many people speak. I'm stepping away now because that's the responsible thing to do. And
Yeah,
I
I
will
think
be
you
the,
and
I
I
will be the
will
adult
have
that does that. So listen,
conversation.
appreciate the dialogue here very much. Appreciate the eye contact, appreciate the head nods. We will continue to show up. Our town needs it. And we will continue to navigate these conversations. And I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Good evening. Todd Salomon, 15 Delwick Lane in New Providence. Yeah, good evening, Mayor, good evening, Council.
Can you just pull the microphone
Yeah,
up
we
closer?
can.
Sure.
You don't have to stoop.
Okay. Yeah, so we've lived at 15 Delwick Lane since 2010. We've experienced many different flooding issues over the years. It's, I think, primarily due to the, as Calvin mentioned, the poor storm sewer drainage system, because that backs up, like, our house and 3 others are kind of the low spot on the street. So all of the rain that comes onto Delwick and from Devon, it just funnels into there. And then just a comment in terms of local flow patterns. So the street behind us is Hickson, and so we talked to, like, dads of my friend who live a dad of my friend who lives on Hickson. So when we get the flooding, they don't see an issue, right? So they don't see the flooding back there. So I can appreciate that, I think you mentioned your town engineer has reports saying that the drainage to the river is an issue, but I think what we see, there's no flooding on Hickson, but we have massive flooding where we are. So I think it would be nice to know, this is a suggestion, is, what is a local issue that might be resolved more readily, where it'd be nice to also know what scope requires, like, DEP approval versus
The scoping
town approval.
doesn't need DEP approval.
The scoping needs it?
No, they don't need
Okay.
DEP approval.
So I think from my perspective, just, how big of a job requires DEP approval versus if it's something smaller that might get mitigated, without having to go to that extent, because that could speed up the timeframes.
A lot of times we found that builders put in these pipes without permits. And if there's no easement and it's not town, we're not even supposed to touch it. And people have done this over the years without permits or anything else. So I don't know if that's what's happening in your case. A lot of times when they build, years ago, they would just build a swale in the back of houses, and the water is supposed to go in the swale and then drain. Like
So-
over where you live, they don't call that Mill Pond Road for nothing.
Yeah, well, I learned it used to
Yeah.
be a pond. So just to elaborate a little on what you
Yeah.
mentioned there with the builders. So I believe the storm sewer is probably like a town installation, right? I don't think a builder would have put the storm sewer in, right? So we have a storm sewer that collects at the bottom of our street,
Yeah.
runs in back to Hickson, all right? And so I learned this after we moved in, but our house, Calvin, our neighbor Tom is here, and the Bach is to the right of us. We all have an elaborate underground drainage system that was put in, I'm not sure exactly when, but prior to when we moved in. So all of our drainage connects into this underground system, which connects into this storm sewer pipe that's running from Delwick in the back to Hickson. So when we get all that water accumulation, or it could be Ida, it could be a big thunderstorm, like, that stuff just backs up. And Tom, like, his garage just floods immensely. We've had flooding because, like, all of our sump pumps and our gutter downspouts go into the drainage system. So when that backs up, there's nowhere for the water to go. And so we've put in a lot of expense to do, like, we had to do a mold remediation in our basement, so we put in a French drain. We now have a sump pump, but, like, when that thing backs up, my sump pump is going to act as a bilge pump and overflow, and I'm just going to hope that at some point, like, it doesn't just creep up all the way to the house and then flood everything again. But it's a serious issue. So we have tried to do as many home improvements we can to our house to waterproof it. We've done many mold remediations. My wife and my kids have had mold exposure, so they've been treated for mold exposure. So so I would just appreciate more information about the permitting process, what's the scope. And if you mentioned that you had a town engineer that had a report about You know, I don't know if that's public information or public record, but I think that would be useful to share with the
Yeah, I'd
community.
love to see you had a contractor put in that system?
No, there's an underground system that predates when we moved in. And you know, you see certain pipes and stuff there's an easement, but like if you look at the survey, I don't know who put that in, but I mean, from talking to a prior neighbor, I think when our neighbor Kathy Dillon used to live there, somebody had come in and with a backhoe to connect everything. But like, if the storm sewer, like one of my neighbors in the back, like I've seen him out there trying to clear off, there's a cover for the storm sewer. Like, I'm afraid something happens, he gets sucked into that thing, because you know, the water's like this high in his backyard. I mean, it's dangerous. So I don't know who put it in, because it predates us.
You know what, that may be one of the first places we look to scope. Maybe there's a blockage in there or something. You know, a blockage is pretty easy to fix. They get a jet vac in there or whatever and blow it out. Personally, I don't think it's a blockage, because you see the street, like our street right at this corner, right by Calvin and Tom's house, it floods, and it's deep, and it's wide, and it's big. And so that's basically the storm sewer can't handle that water, you know.
I mean,
So
if it's a collapsed pipe, then it just raises the
I think
water
they
table.
scoped it, and from, you know, what Calvin had mentioned, I think that it looked pretty clear, right?
Or penetrations from roots or.
They could see down to Hickson? Yeah.
But I don't know why the storm sewer go to Hickson when the river's the other way. Why it wouldn't go, I know they go down Pine Way.
It goes down from my area, it goes down between Dewitt to Hickson, there's one pipe that runs between our houses.
Okay.
Straight down, and then it kind of dog legs down Primrose, into the neighborhood, down that way.
Oh, I used to
Over
live
to
on
the south.
Primrose, I get it.
Parallel, relative.
Okay.
Yeah, so I appreciate you,
No, that's good information.
Yeah.
We'll get it to the engineer.
I just wanted to clear one thing. I think Kate said, you know, the water's sitting right now in the, you know, the cement culverts, right? You know, this is all that snow. We got a lot of snow, right? It's melting. Where does it go? It goes down to the river, right? The river is pretty high right now because all that, well, it's not just New Providence, it's every town, right? So all that's going to one spot and it's kind of being pressurized, right, and pushed back. So until that can get lower, we're gonna see that still sitting in the culverts, right? We've been saying for a long time, that's the problem, right? The river is one of the problems, sorry, not the only problem. One of the biggest problems is the river. And unfortunately, you know, there's nothing that we're allowed to do right now. Like, if we can put money in a budget and say, let's go, you know, dredge that thing and make it better for New Providence, we'd, you know, love to do it. But I think what we heard from our engineer when we started talking about all this is we can't do that, number one, because we're not allowed to affect our downstream neighbors, right? And our upstream neighbors aren't allowed to do anything that's gonna affect us. So there's a lot more to it than just, you know, cleaning out culverts and cementing, you know, re-cementing culverts and things of that nature. But if there are collapsed pipes, if there are undersized pipes, those are things that I'm not sure there's much we can do right now, right?
I mean, I would
We can't
agree.
rip up the town and put in bigger pipes, right? That's, I don't even, what that would cost, hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't know, but, you know, maybe there's something that we can get, or look into from the state for something to that effect, but if there are, in your area specifically, undersized pipes, and if that's the case, you know, again, I don't even know if ripping that up and replacing it with larger pipes to fix your area is allowed, right? You might not even be allowed to do that because it'll affect somebody else, right? And maybe it'll affect somebody else down the road. So I
But we
think
should
the
know,
whole
we should
concept-
know that, we should, like, document
Yeah,
that.
this should all be
Just-
knowable.
Yeah, just so that we know what we're dealing with, I think that's kind of what they're asking for.
I'm a chemical engineer. I don't claim to be a civil engineer, but we study flow in pipes. So I think it would be prudent or useful for the town engineer to look at the flow network and say, okay, like Hickson's not flooding right now, so presumably the water flowing through the pipes on Hickson is not having an issue getting away, right? Because you're not, you know, at least this is what my friend's dad's telling us. So I think it would be useful for them to kind of look at the whole system and see, okay, like, you know, this is where you have a serious bottleneck, like we see every time we get a big rain at the bottom of our street. And, you know, because like you're right, if you can't do anything in the river, stuff's gonna back up, but there could be local bottlenecks, right? When you get like, you know, so I don't wanna blame I don't wanna blame every, but so like, when I hear everything's the river's fault and getting it to the river, you know, I'm not sure I would completely agree, you know, based on what we've seen over 16 years.
We found a crushed pipe at the gates. Hopefully that'll take care of it. Your problem, right? Have you had a problem since? No.
Yeah, so go ahead.
But once again, you know, you get 6-7 inches of rain in an hour, nothing's gonna, you're an engineer, you understand nothing's gonna help that. So, you know, the best system in the world, but it's gonna back up.
I think our takeaway, it sounds like, is we gotta make sure that we understand what the hot spots that we've identified are. We gotta post that up so you guys know what we have identified as the hot spots. And if you are another hot spot, or you believe you are one that's not on that list, then give us the information on it, right? Let's start with that, right?
And we'll put it on the website.
That was my question, where are we
Okay.
posting the hotspots?
Yeah.
So that everybody can.
Yeah, it would have to be on the website.
Yeah, and then you can do like a little form for submitting additional information.
There is one.
That's the action lines. There already is.
I was gonna actually go there. I was gonna, so one, identifying and posting up hot spots, right?
Action line.
And then two, you know, I think Nikki might have mentioned how do you communicate, or if there's an issue. I think using the action lines is important. I'm gonna go look for her action lines from October. Unfortunately, you know, it depends on how you put in an action line, whether or not it's something that all of the borough, mayor, council see. Some people might just directly send it to somebody individually. I would highly suggest, if there's action lines related to any of the flooding issues, send them to the mayor and council so that we all get them.
Then we'll see.
Everybody has them. And then we can see if it's been actioned or responded to at the same time.
Okay, thank you for your
And
attention.
Kate, I apologize if it seemed like I was getting hot. You know, Bernadette and I have been working diligently on this. I've been meeting with, you know, talking to the congressman's office. I've been talking to the other mayors involved. And Bernadette's been talking to Colliers. We've been talking to, she talks to the administrators all the time. We're frustrated. I mean, really frustrated. We know that there's problems. And we're doing our best to try and get it solved. And it's so frustrating dealing with the feds. It's unbelievable. The only, in the state, you know, they're just saying you can't touch anything. It's extremely frustrating. The only thing they pretty much said we could do is take a front end loader and scoop out the concrete culverts. The natural stuff, they said we can't even touch. So.
And if there's growth and any growth within the culvert, for example, shrubbery and trees, we can't touch it. They won't let us touch that
If
either.
there's like silt in the middle of the salt brook, down by the river, if there's like a little weed or something, they're saying, oh no, that's a natural island. Come on, what are you kidding?
When did that change?
That's like
Oh, they change it. DEP regulations change all the time.
Because they used to clean out the culvert all the time, like every
Yeah,
spring.
I think we talked about it earlier in the process here, we talked about if there's culverts, cemented culverts that we can go in and clean out, we can do that. However, the DEP did, again, I'm just.
I thought they did in the fall.
In the cemented culvert, and it used to get cleaned out annually or every other year at most.
They used to do it twice a year.
Yeah, and now it hasn't been done in years, and there's trees down there. That's part of what Sarah was saying. That there's trees and fencing down that's blocking the culvert now.
Yep, those are things we need to identify and.
All right, well, I'll talk to Ralph about it.
When you mentioned my name that I called last year, I haven't sent the thing yet, but one of them is blocked again. And I don't want to be in charge of that tunnel.
Okay.
Because I have, you know, but what I do is I actually run there every time I know storm's coming, but I'm retired now, I'm not always in New Providence. And I'm worried next week, well, I don't say, I'm not gonna be around. And what if it rains and you guys have it unblocked?
Yeah, I
know
know.
about it, right? Yeah.
I had those pipes put in.
Yeah, no, I know,
Yeah.
they need to, you know, there's one block.
Okay, I'll talk to Ralph.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes. I appreciate that. And I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
that you-
problem. And Kate, you and I will sit down and have a conversation. And I apologize.
I think we'll have a joint conversation, the three of us probably.
What's that?
I think the three of us would be better.
That's fine. Yeah,
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
okay.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Okay.
This lady, ma'am?
Anybody else wishing to address council? Seeing no one, I declare the public comments closed. I need a motion for items 1 through 22.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lerner,
Aye.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky,
Aye.
Mrs. McKnight,
Yes.
Mr. Gardner.
Aye.
Okay, I have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
No, so be it.